Hello, you lovely listeners. I'm Amy. Welcome to the Really Good Conversations podcast, a space for honest conversations across business, life, and the moments that shape us. We delve into the minds of founders, leaders, creatives, and experts. So if you're looking for thoughtful insights, real stories, and conversations that go a little deeper, you're in the right place. Let's have a really good conversation. Welcome to the Really Good Conversations podcast. Today, I'm joined by Lee Holmes, a clinical nutritionist, best-selling author and founder of Supercharged Food and Supercharge Your Gut. After her own experience with autoimmune symptoms and fibromyalgia, Lee built a career around helping people use food, gut health, and lifestyle tools to support healing. Her latest book, her 12th, Eat to Heal, explores the connection between trauma, the nervous system, and inflammation. It asks whether chronic illness needs to be understood, not just through the body, but through our stress responses, our microbiome, and our lived experiences. In this conversation, we'll go beyond the book and speak to Lee about the wellness myths we're sold, the supermarket habits that are keeping us stuck, and what she wishes more people understood about healing. Welcome to the podcast, Lee.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Thank you so much for your time. And I have, as you know, I've already been diving into this book. I have been loving it. This particular topic of gut and inflammation has been something that I've been myself, keen to learn more about. For anyone who's listening and perhaps doesn't know your work, how would you describe today what it is that you do?
Yeah, so I'm a qualified clinical nutritionist. As you mentioned, I'm a yoga and meditation teacher as well. And I also run a business where I have a product line of 20 different products. And what I do, I work across the whole sort of holistic side of health and wellness. And I love to talk to people primarily about the gut and food as medicine. So how to use food to be a healing instrument in your life. That's the basis of it. And so my work cuts across clinical nutrition, gut health, and your brain and nervous system as well.
Brilliant. And there was a quote in the book that did jump out, and it said, your kitchen is your best form of medicine without needing a prescription for.
Yeah.
And as I said, this is now your 12th book. So where did this journey all start from for yourself? Because this wasn't your career previously.
No, so previously I worked at the ABC in Sydney. So I was working in the music department. I was working with the Wiggles and Bananas in Pajamas, but I was working in making their albums and videos and things like that. So I worked in the kids' music department, which I really loved. But during that time, when I was a single mum and working there, I did get really sick and I kind of went in and out of hospital. In the beginning, I wasn't really listening to my body, so I kept on working and pushing myself. But I noticed that my symptoms were getting worse. My hair was starting to fall out. I was getting hives over my body. I was really achy. I was really tired. I lost a lot of weight. And after a while, when the symptoms were really screaming at me, I went through what I found to be a really complex medical system because I was just trying to get answers. And so I was going from doctor to doctor, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. I had lots of needles, lots of scans, lots of tests. And it took a really long time, but eventually I was diagnosed with a non-specific autoimmune problem and something called fibromyalgia. Which is where you feel really tired and achy and things like that. And I was put on a concoction of different medications. And because of those medications, I was also getting side effects from the medication. So it's really hard to differentiate between the symptoms of what was going on and the side effects of the medication that I was taking. So I did speak to my doctor and I said, do you think it has anything to do with my diet or my gut? Because I noticed that when I eat certain things, my symptoms really exacerbate and really flare up. And they said to me, no, nothing to do with what you're eating at all.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it has no relevance on the situation. But I did say to them, look, if I change my diet and ate different things, could I give it a go? And they said, yes, certainly. It won't make a difference, but you can try. And so I had to leave work. It was my dream job. I was so sad about that. But I came and went back into my kitchen after coming out of hospital. And I started just experimenting really at home. And I knew that my tummy needed really gentle foods for some reason, because when I was working, in a full-time job as a single parent, I was just putting those, those lean cuisines and those instant meals. I was just putting those with all the preservatives and everything into the microwave, not knowing that I was really reacting to the MSG and a lot of the preservatives and things within those meals. So I kind of just went back to basics, and I started to discover that some of the things that I was eating were really exacerbating my symptoms. And so I changed my diet, and I started to eat just very real, gentle, simple foods. And I documented it on a blog called superchargedfood.com. And from there, I started writing. It really helped me, actually, just writing about it. And social media had just kind of started back in the day.
Yeah.
Started like writing little blogs and putting them on Facebook, and it was amazing because people from all over the world would contact me and say, that happened to me. I was put on steroids. I blew up like the Michelin Man. I had like the same symptoms as you, and this happened. And then I changed my diet, and my tummy got better, and the hives stopped, and my hair started to grow back. So it was really interesting. And from there, I started to write my first book. So that's kind of how it all started and how I got into health and wellness.
Wow. And you're just making me think, I think we were all brought up to an extent on the, go to the doctor and the doctor has the answers. And I know different generations as well have different views on this. I know with my own parents in the UK, it's, I'll go to the doctors for a prescription. And I'll actually say, well, have you considered other things or other diets and things? And whether it's as humans, we've been trained that we want that quick fix, or the health systems in certain countries, it's, just go and get some medication and then, that'll fix it. But often that's just like masking it for people.
Yeah, I think it is. And when I was looking into food and the various different ingredients, I realized that there were certain foods that had amazing capabilities of giving me the same relief from symptoms that the medications that they were giving me were. For example, things like curcumin and turmeric. The curcumin within it was very powerfully anti-inflammatory, and that would help a lot of the inflammation in my body without all of the side effects from the meds. And then I learned about garlic. Like, I was exploring all these different ingredients and how garlic is antiviral and antibacterial, and instead of the antibiotics that were messing with my gut microbiome that they'd given me, I started to lean more into real foods, and they really are quite powerful and did help. Obviously, I'm not against medication. If you need medication, I'm not against it, but I wanted to find for this chronic condition things that I could use that were sort of less damaging in the long run. It's kind of how I looked at it.
Your latest book, Eat to Heal, explores particularly the connection between trauma and the nervous system and inflammation. So in simple terms, what is the connection?
Yeah, there is a connection in very, very simple terms. And I have learned this not in the beginning. I went through years of kind of practicing clinical nutrition, obviously studying it to become a qualified clinical nutritionist. But over time, I saw more and more patients in my clinic where I was kind of putting together the link between trauma and chronic stress, and how that is not just an emotional experience, how it actually affects the body and leads to inflammation through the rise of cortisol in the body, blood sugar dysregulation. And then it also, chronic stress affects the gut. So it affects the gut lining, it affects the gut microbiome, it affects the vagus nerve, the communication that runs from the gut to the brain. So these three things together were working together to keep you in a space where your nervous system was kind of like in fight or flight. So you could take the best supplements in the world, you could eat the best food in the world, but we were noticing in clinic that people with nervous system dysregulation were just not getting better. So to get to the root cause of it, I looked at the, relationship between the nervous system, the gut, and the brain. Really interesting.
People hear the word trauma, they can often think of a big life event that someone might have experienced. But what do you think is misunderstood about what trauma can actually be for some people?
Because I think that trauma, it can be a single catastrophic event. But it can also be low level stress from, like every day, from like relationships or work issues or those kinds of stresses. And they're the things that can also keep your body locked in fight or flight. And, it can 100% be childhood trauma as well, but it can also be all of these other kinds of little stresses that are, within our everyday lives. And also our inner critic can keep locked in a fight or flight response as well, and keep on driving that chronic inflammation within the body. And then the chronic inflammation leads to immune dysregulation. So you're getting all of these kind of things in your body, like going, why am I so itchy after that food? And why do I feel so tired? And why can't I get up in the morning? And why is my brain really foggy? And a lot of that's driven by inflammation in the body. And that can come from the chronic stress that you're feeling. So yeah, it's kind of like all joined in together. It's not one thing or one symptom.
Absolutely. And even when, the opening line of the book actually says, tired, achy and fed up, this book is for you. And I started reading it. I said to my husband, oh, she's speaking to me.
Yeah.
What have you seen when people have unresolved stress and emotional experience, how that can actually show up in the body?
Yeah, so when your nervous system is chronically activated, it can change your biochemistry. It can, or your feel good, your serotonin and all of that. It can change you biochemically, and the pathways can be changed as well. That vagus nerve activation, like the brain gut, that can all change as well. It can change your immune response. So it can change the way that how long you take to get better, or how your immune system can be activated with certain environmental factors or foods that you're eating. You can get pro-inflammatory cytokines, they're called, like reactions and cells and things that happen in the body. It can really build up. Your immune system can start dysfunctioning and becoming really dysregulated. You can get IBS symptoms. You can get bloating, like so many different things within the body can happen when you're under that chronic stress. Yeah.
And what do you think people get wrong about gut health?
I think that it's interesting with gut health. I think that people think it's really super normal to have diarrhea, constipation, gas, when we just think it's like a normal sort of part of life. But it's actually not normal. It's actually your body trying to communicate with you. It's trying to tell you something. It might be trying to tell you your microbiome is off, like your good bacteria and your bad bacteria. You've been drinking too much. You've been eating too much sweet things. You've been eating too many processed foods, and that balance goes off. So it might be that's driving things like bloating and tiredness after eating and what have you. So yeah, listening and tuning into your body, I think, is really important.
Yeah. And from my perspective, it feels like it has become a lot more of a popular topic, perhaps particularly over this last year or so. For you, how have you seen in the industry it become more of a topic either people are talking about or creating products around? Has it now become more understanding than when you started out 15 years ago?
100%. 100%, so much more awareness, which is really great. When you look at the gut, it is the engine room to the body. You think about everything that you eat, everything that you drink, all your food hydration goes through the gut. So it's so important. And the gut is connected to so many other systems in the body as well. So the gut's connected to the brain, the immune system. 70 to 80% of your immune tissue is actually located in your gut. 90% of your serotonin is manufactured in your gut. So it's like the engine room. And I feel like now a lot more people, and even in the medical profession, are really understanding how important gut health is and the microbiome, and how to keep that nice and healthy to get your immune system working well and to make you feel a lot better. Yeah.
Wow. And for people listening to this and thinking, okay, well, yeah, I am feeling super stressed. How would somebody go about finding out, okay, well, do I have gut issues, or is it gut, or is it my stress, or
how
do people start to look at?
Yeah, I know it can be complicated. There are conflicting messages out there. I think firstly, if you're eating things and you get a reaction afterwards, and if you maybe keep a little note of that or a little diary of that, and you go, I eat this processed foods and I feel really bad afterwards, then you take that out of your diet for a little bit and see if you feel better. That's one way of doing it. You can also obviously go and see a nutritionist. There's lots of tests you can do. You can do like a microbiome test to see the state of play. You can do that as well. You can obviously go to your GP as well and speak to your GP. So yeah, there's lots of different avenues. It depends on where you are at currently with the state of health of your gut. Some people, if you're losing weight and there are things like you're getting really bad diarrhea and you're exhausted and you can't get out of bed, then obviously that's a really big sign to go and see a doctor or a nutritionist for sure. Yeah.
And, what is hard for us, mere mortals and the public is, what you can sometimes think and feel we're eating healthy and we're making the right choices. But in reality, there's ingredients in the products that we're buying off in the supermarket that are not, perhaps as good as what they say. And you do some great little almost the mystery shopper in the supermarkets where you call out some of these products on the shelves. But for those listening, what are some of the worst food marketing myths that we've been sold?
There's been a lot of them, hasn't there? I think the low fat myth is a really big one because I feel like that's done enormous damage to people actually. So a low fat is not, as you know, not necessarily good because when they strip out the fat, they put in refined sugars, emulsifiers, lots of highly processed foods, and those are destroying gut health. They're destroying the lining of your gut, and so they're making it really hard for you to absorb things from the foods you're eating. So even if you think you're healthy, then eating low fat is actually not, because it's got all of these different chemicals in it. And new research, actually, this is so interesting. I found out this when I was writing the book. New research shows in terms of cardiovascular disease that it's not really about cholesterol as much as it is about inflammation. Inflammation is driving cardiovascular disease. We know that now. There's new research out there. So I think low fat, you're better off just having normal whole foods rather than thinking that low fat is healthy when it's actually got all of these additives in it that are destroying your gut health,
Wow. And I remember a number of years ago, my mum in the UK was, part of one of the weight loss groups for a time, where they measure things in sins. And she was told not to have avocado because avocado was a sin. And I was like, but no, Mum, it's a healthy fat. But then these particular companies will also sell their low-fat cereal bars or whatever else it might be. It's difficult, to then be feeling like you are perhaps following guidance from different sources and what path they're actually putting you on. And I actually saw a nutritionist quite a number of years ago when I was sort of getting wedding ready. And she pretty much said, basically walk into a supermarket and you can pretty much discount the majority of the aisles in a supermarket. She said, really, the only aisles you really want to be in is that fresh fruit section and obviously the proteins. She literally, if you think about it, the cereal aisle, all processed.
Yeah, and even the fortified foods, the fortified cereals and the ones with added nutrition, you look at them and they're actually just injecting synthetic vitamins into those foods. Synthetic vitamins that our bodies can't assimilate or process, which actually some people who are sensitive with sensitive guts can't actually even absorb these synthetic vitamins. So they're not actually the fortified foods. Remember back maybe 5 years ago when fortified foods were a really big thing, fortified with iron and calcium and things like that. They're not necessarily better for you.
Crikey. Anyway, it makes me think how the food companies can actually get away with this. Actually, we do almost need, I start to feel that supermarkets need to be almost protecting the consumer more than it does. And I remember one that I found out where the ingredients are listed is the quantity amounts.
Yeah,
so for example, you'll read something, but then you see sugar is the second
number one
ingredient. And then you're like, well, actually, it's sugar is the next thing. So that was an eye-opener because at what point are we actually being educated on how to read labels?
Yeah, I mean, becoming your own label detective, I think, is really important when it comes to the supermarket. And you're absolutely right about the amounts and the ingredients and the order that they're in. I think one of the worst ones for me is when it says natural flavors. Natural flavors is such a mask for highly processed foods and ingredients that are in them and synthetic compounds that are in them. And also, when you go into the supermarket and it says, oh, this is really heart healthy. But when it's heart healthy, they can put added sugar in that and other things like that just to distract you. And they make on the front of the packet, like heart healthy and all of that, really big and bold. So you're not really turning it over and having a look at the actual, like you said, the ingredients list. And then when you look at the ingredients list and you're looking at it and you're going, okay, this has got maltodextrin, citric acid, polydextrose, corn syrup, all of those things. They're actually all the highly processed foods and really, really not good for you.
If you could cull a whole section from the supermarket, which would you remove? Which is the worst aisle?
Do you know what I'd remove? This is going to be controversial, Amy. I would remove the protein bars in the health food aisle, the whole health food aisle, all the protein bars. You know how you would think that a protein bar in the health food aisle would be super healthy?
No.
They're actually not. They're full of ultra-processed foods as well. They really are. Maltodextrin, as I said, E numbers, emulsifiers. The emulsifiers, research now shows that emulsifiers, certain ones, can strip your gut lining. So you can get little holes in your gut lining. You can get these perforations, which leads to food going into the bloodstream, which leads to dysbiosis. They also call it leaky gut, which leads to an immune response, which leads to inflammation, which leads to chronic disease. So it's like, I know it sounds like crazy, but honestly, in the health food aisle, that's what I would delete off the shelves.
Oh gosh, I mean, it is great to hear, because I do walk down these aisles and I must admit I am skeptical. Sugar actually is one that's an interesting one, because if we do try now, you can have sugar free, but then there is all the other, whether it's stevia or some of the other. What's your view on these alternative sugars?
Yeah, so for me, I kind of lean towards things like raw honey, a little bit of maple syrup, coconut sugar, because that's easy to digest. And also coconut sugar can sometimes feed the good bugs in the gut, the prebiotics in the coconut sugar. I think things like, erythritol, not so good. All the artificial sugars can be neurotoxic and can create neuroinflammation, brain fog. There's research out about that as well. So I would just go back to basics, some honey, bit of maple syrup, that kind of thing. Fruit as well. Whole fruit is always really good.
What do you think one of the worst things we regularly see in supermarkets?
Okay, I think one of the worst things is particularly the way that we market to children, and things that are considered natural but have a lot of artificial colors in them. And those dyes and colors that some children can really, really react to. Little sensitive kids, all those E numbers and things like that. I think I would love to see healthier children's options in the supermarket. For sure.
I mean, yes, it is a minefield. And as you said, getting back to sort of basics that many moons ago, particularly in the UK, where I grew up, you had the butcher, you had the fish market, you had the fruit shop, and obviously supermarkets have just become bigger and bigger. And we've learned as humans for this absolute convenience, or eating on the go, or what can we get that we don't have to prepare, and therefore we're grabbing all of this other stuff.
Convenient options, things for lunch boxes and things like that. Marketers have really understood that and created flavors and tastes and the way things look in order to really entice kids and families to sort of purchase them, but they're really detrimental in the long run, especially if you're eating. Obviously, now and again it's fine, but if you can go a little bit more natural, it's always going to be better.
Yeah. Absolutely. Gosh, well, I mean, we could talk about this topic at length, but I'm intrigued further on your wider journey and your business journey overall, because again, you're originally from the UK yourself, but been in Australia, many years, but you have really built your business across Australia, UK and the US. So how have you managed all of that?
Well, thank goodness for the internet, I'll say, because obviously, the internet has made it a lot easier to work, and it's kind of made more of a closer relationship with other countries, don't you think, in order for us to sort of communicate and to do business overseas. So the internet has really helped us. And obviously, being from England, I love England, and it's got my heart, and I have a beautiful community there. So as I go back twice a year, so I really, really love that. And then I also head over to America sometimes. We've got our products in America as well. So, yeah, I think the world's become a smaller place in a way, even though we're getting bigger. But in the way of communication, I think it's easier to connect and be connected to other people.
Yeah. And when you started with your products, was it Australia? Did you launch them in Australia first and then go overseas?
Yes. Yeah, I launched them in Australia first, and then into New Zealand, and then into England and the US and Korea. Got a great relationship with our partners in Korea. I've been over to Korea, which is really fun as well. So we're expanding across the world. And really genuinely, Amy, I want to say that it's not just about the business for me. It's really about reaching as many people as possible with this really healthy message in order to continue my mission. And my mission, at the heart of my mission, is to really help improve people's health. And I want to be able to do that affordably, cheaply, within, the things that they have, in order to understand and be aware of within what they can afford and all that kind of stuff. So I'm really, really passionate about that mission, to be able to reach as many people as possible and help them genuinely feel much, much better and feel really good and have vibrant lives and have energy. And
and exactly, books like this one and your others as well do make that more accessible to people, and the education just around some of these things that we've been talking about, that people can dive into. And there's recipes particularly in this book as well. But out of interest, have you noticed a difference in how people in these other countries that we mentioned, UK, US, Australia, how they approach gut health and food and wellness? Because in my novice opinion, the US seems like a culture that is a huge, pharmaceutical driven culture. Again, even more, they've got access with the, fast foods, etc. Everywhere has sort of slightly complicated health systems. But how do you see the different markets differ in their approach to this?
I would like to say, with all due respect, that I find the UK to be very healthily skeptical, the health and wellness industry. But they're slowly coming around and understanding more about the impact of healthy foods and things like that. And they're very open now. Whereas when I first started, they were quite closed on that. But I feel like they're really much more open to it, and they do their own research. They're amazing. I literally do a talk in London, and people are asking the most interesting questions, and they're so clued up. I love that. In America, I feel, yes, the pharmaceutical industries have a strong hold on a lot of that industry and people, but I feel like in America, they love to jump onto trends as well. So like keto or paleo, or like the latest kind of things. At the moment, it's peptides and the wellness influences and all of that. And so they're kind of really open, but they go deep into trends, I think. I think the Australians sit somewhere in between those two things. Healthily skeptical, interested in trends, but also aware, and they're inspirational as well. We have obviously a big outdoor lifestyle, and that is a really big part of us here, as you know. Like you were talking to me about your son, you take the paddleboard out, you do like outdoor sports and things like that. So yeah, I think as a culture, we do have more of a sort of health and wellness sort of aspect to who we are.
Yeah, no, I love that. I thought, it's really interesting, because there is differences and nuances in the different countries, and what they're open to as well. Before we go on to some of our questions from our pack of cards shortly, what's one thing you want people to know that you wish you'd known sooner on your health journey?
I think I wish I'd known what I write about in my current book, Eat to Heal, and that is that perfectionists perfectionism is not always a good thing. Having the perfect diet, eating the perfect foods, taking the perfect supplements, it goes a lot deeper than that. And sometimes not eating something because you're afraid to eat it is probably worse off than eating that thing that you would have ordinarily. You know what I mean? So, and also by that, I mean also the nervous system and the way that it plays a really huge part in health and wellness, and our thoughts, and being a perfectionist, because I used to be a perfectionist, I think, typical Virgo perfectionist, trying to do everything right, and self-critical as well. And I think we do that with ourselves, don't we? With our in health and wellness, we try and be perfect. We try and do everything well, and we look at each symptom and should I be doing this for that, and not really as a whole. So this book ties everything into, looking at things in a more holistic sort of way and not being so self-critical.
Yeah, I love that. And you shared some excellent stories in the book. And one that's springing to mind when you say that was, somebody who, I think they were a yoga teacher from memory.
Sarah,
and, perfect diet, you would say, from on paper, and salads and really healthy stuff. But actually through your work with her, really, her body was screaming almost just some nourishing, warmer, different style of food to help. So it's a complex and such a personal,
it is.
We're all looking for the quick, how do I lose 5 kilos or whatever sort of information, or as you said, some of those different dieting trends. But it really is such a personal, your body situation.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I studied Ayurveda as well, which is like the ancient medical system from India. When I was doing a lot of my research, I went to India and studied it. And that is all about living in alignment with your own constitution and your own, and it's about being able to tune in and, on a daily basis go, okay, it's cold today. Maybe I'm going to have a nice warming stew, or I've been traveling a lot. I need some grounding foods. It's as simple as that, really. Or we're in this season. Let's try and eat a little bit more seasonal. So just little things like that. It doesn't have to be a complete overhaul of your diet,
Yeah. Oh, fascinating. And I'd want to ask, obviously we're all about, conversations and the work that we do, but has there ever been a conversation on your journey that has shaped you or changed the direction of your life?
That's a really good question. Let me think about that. I think the conversation that I had with myself would be the one that's changed my life. Not doctors necessarily, or experts or researchers that I've talked to, but the one I actually, with a chronic condition, said to myself, a lot of it is coming from me and my thoughts and my nervous system and that kind of thing, rather than just all these different inputs. So I think it's the conversation that I had with myself.
That's lovely.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. And now I'm going to ask you 3 questions from our pack of really good conversation cards. Question number 1, if you had a warning label, what would it be?
If I had a warning label, it would probably be prepared that if you ask me to go see a movie with you, I'm probably going to be asleep by 8:30. I don't know why, but whenever, when you're on the couch with your partner or a friend and that you're going through like Netflix and you're trying to find something to watch, by the time we found something to watch, within the first 10 minutes, I'm asleep. And then I'll keep waking up and going, what happened? What happened? So yeah, don't expect to watch a movie with me after 9 p.m.
Brilliant. Question number 2, what is one piece of wisdom you want to pass on to future generations?
I guess this is from my yoga and meditation, from learning that. I think it's really important to try and live in the moment and be present as much as you can. Obviously, when you're thinking too much about the past or thinking too much about the future, you're missing out on the current. I live in Palm Beach, and I love walking around my area. And every day it's like a non-negotiable. I go for a little walk from my house to Palm Beach and back, like just around. And I feel like sometimes I don't even take my headphones. I don't listen to anything. I'm just like in the moment, like listening to the birds and just taking time to enjoy the moment. And that has actually become the highlight of my entire day. And I feel like it really regulates my nervous system. And it's something that I think is really good for health. Just a little walk without too many distractions and just looking around and noticing things,
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I sometimes as well do similar when I go on a walk. I just need to not fill my head with anything else right now. And question number 3, if you had a superpower, what would it be?
Or I think I've got a really good superpower in intuition.
Oh.
So I do have a lot of dreams, and I'm able to predict things that happen. It happens all the time. So for example, I woke up this morning. This is a true story. I woke up this morning and I said to my partner, I was just dreaming about someone was connecting a hose pipe and it was broken and all the water was gushing everywhere. And he said, oh, that's because we're at his house. He goes, that's because the guy is here fixing the broken pipe and he's hosing downstairs, and I didn't hear it or anything. So it's just really weird. I think it's my intuition.
Wow. Oh my goodness, you got a bit of a psychic talent there.
Yeah.
And the last question that I love to ask all of our guests is, if you could ask someone dead or alive a question, who would it be and what would you ask them?
I really love poetry. And there's a poet, she's like an old school poet, and she wrote a book. You might know this book. It's called The White Cliffs. And she wrote it around the Second World War. Yeah. And she was American, and she wrote it about her relationship with Britain because she'd gone over and fell in love with a Brit and was writing about how she, as an American, she saw Britain. And I think Churchill at the time read the book and really loved it and went, oh, okay, I really love this American woman's writing. And somehow it influenced the partnership between England and America. So imagine, wouldn't that be a really fascinating to see how someone's work, someone's writing, or someone's poetry can really make a big impact on wider things in the world, politics I would love to interview her.
Brilliant. I love that. Thank you for everything you've shared today. Honestly, we could talk at length about this and this topic, but tell our listeners where they can find out more information about you and this new book and your current work as well.
So the book is here. It's called Eat to Heal, which is a super cute cover there. And you can buy it at any bookstore, but also you can buy it from my website, superchargedfood.com. If you're interested in gut health products, you can find me at superchargeyourgut.com. And I'm also on Instagram at Lee Supercharged with a D. And on Facebook, I think I'm Supercharged Food or Lee Supercharged as well on Facebook. So reach out if you have any questions about gut health or anything like that. I would love to chat.
Brilliant. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for everything you shared today.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been really nice chatting with you.
Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the episode and that it's left you with something to reflect on or talk about beyond this conversation. Be sure to check out the show notes for more information on today's guest. And if really good conversations are your thing, share this episode with a friend, hit subscribe, and join us next time.